Today, we're talking about one of my favorite videos in all of snowboarding, Side Hit Euphoria 2 by Longo. This one's so interesting to me because it's filmed mostly at Whistler and in the BC area. So not only do I recognize these side hits, I've actually had the chance to ride some of them, what gives me great perspective for how ridiculous these boosts are. So in this video, we're going to go look at these, watch it all through, and then break it down, each clip individually, to figure out how he's doing ridiculous stuff like this, like massive boost, no transition into the most pristine hardway front free. Longo is the king of minimalistic snowboarding. He's so dialed in, his form's so powerful, he doesn't need to change his body position at all, from like spins, popping massive straighters. He's just so stock and so subtle, and that sort of makes him a little bit hard to talk about because he'll do something like this. Ridiculous front five. This feature, getting to that transition, you gotta be cooking, and it's a bumpy in run. So the fact that he's able to take this much power and confidence into it is truly mind-blowing. You are noticing that he's like putting a little bit of work into the lips, building a little bit of extra landings so he can go bigger, but most of this stuff you could just pull up to Whistler and ride a version of. Like that side hit, that's like two side hits and he's gapping into the other one with no room for air on either side. It is so ridiculously cool. And just when you go and ride these resorts, like the airtime these guys are getting here isn't realistic. And one of the things that Longo does better than anyone is how he goes and pushes through the transition of the landings. Like watch this, coming in, boom, pushing, pumping for speed. Instead of like absorbing everything, he is such a master at knowing when he can go and use his legs and stay strong and push through that transition to disperse the G-force. And that's a big part from his pipe riding background. These guys that have these great takeoffs, a lot of them are ridiculously good pipe riders. Oh, I love this. Crippler into the smallest transition, getting 3 clips in one zone just onto a resort. Up the cat track, complete 180 turnaround. Like, his sense for terrain and momentum and precision, combined with his perfect fundamentals letting him get the most out of each feature and the most power out of the smallest movements, is what makes him such a powerful rider. Like, this thing, just pushing through, keeping the speed. Man, it's beautiful. It is a beautiful snowboarder. So let's go and dive into how he's doing it. Because there's so many ridiculously dope hits in this video, we're going to focus on the ones that we have a good vision on and can really see what's going on. And this one is probably one of my favorite clips of all time. A triple pack with no room for air and just absolute precision. Let's first break down his pop because he'll be using it on every single feature. And there's a couple things that we really want to note here. First, he uses a very mellow position. And that's because when he's coming and doing his actual execution for the pop, he's extending it to the maximum, being very subtle. Normally when we're snowboarding, we wouldn't want to try match this angle because he's so straight, so extended the legs that he doesn't have much room for air. If he would have popped a little bit too much over the heels and had his upper body set over here, he now wouldn't have that clean center balance to be able to bring the legs up. But because he's so dialed in, he's able to get away with it. So when he's coming in, he's going and keeping his hips a little bit rotated, chest a little bit open, and shifted slightly towards his back foot. A lot less than you'd see from like a normal rider, just because he doesn't have any inefficiencies, any doubts. And that's why we can see his upper body's a little bit positioned forward, but very subtle. And then as he extends, he lifts with his whole body and pushes through. And what he does so amazingly is he really waits until his board's fully off the takeoff before doing anything. Like, let's look at how many frames here he's holding his body straight before grabbing. So snapping, straight, all the way there, and now he's bringing himself into the grab. That's why he's getting so much airtime. If he would have started reaching for the grab around here, it would have made it so he's a bit more over, a little more controlled, but he wouldn't get that extra power, that extra lift. So even when he's doing something with this much precision and this big of a lip, he's still going and fully juicing it. And because he has that absolute technical perfection, he doesn't need to make any adjustments. And what really impresses me here is this transition to this next hit. He needs to redirect and do a speed check. So when he comes into the landing, he's doing a few things. First, he's extending his legs and keeping his body relatively centered. And instead of trying to absorb here, he's going to jam in and sort of force his body to not go past. if he wasn't trying to like stiffen up and lock everything, this amount of impact would compress him a lot more, and that'd make it so it's impossible to go and get control. So he's sort of jamming, absorbing a bit, then locking his body. And look at this. He's now in an extremely compromised like toe edge position, super far away from his actual jumping stance, but he seamlessly goes and uses the momentum from a speed check to push his legs back forward. And notice how as he's doing this, his upper body maintains this angle. And watch, his legs kick the tree and just come back under. And now he's already in a stance that would work for the jump. And now he just needs to load into it. And he's hardly loading at all. This feature, so ridiculously big, such a massive drop off, and he's coming in a very straight bodied position, not relying on leaning back, not increasing range of motion. And this is making it so he has to be ridiculously precise. So as he's coming up, pushing and extending, we can see that he is keeping his weight slightly shifted towards that back foot, upper body pulled forward, but it's so subtle, and most of his pulled forward is actually from letting his hips and upper body rotate a little bit. This is a big difference I see from like Arthur Longo versus some other riders, is he's not afraid to let himself have a little bit of rotation. And that's because a lot of these features we're riding, a little bit of rotation is good, helps bring up the legs. And here we can see that he's landing slightly angled. So he doesn't want to have his shoulders completely closed off because it's not going to give him as much of an ability to hinge. Like, that's sort of a thing with adding rotation here. It puts a natural little bit of hinge in your upper body. This is letting him get away with a serious extension of the legs where he actually pushes his hips and pushes himself almost completely vertical, but still keeping enough weight over his toe edge so he leaves off at toe edge, and as he snaps up, his legs naturally get pulled into that toe edge position. And that's really the thing that's making him so good here, is so subtle. But what really blew my mind every single time I watch it is this transition into this frontside 360. Oh, absolute perfection. And we'll go and explain why. As he's coming into the landing, so first, always landing with a little bit of tail pressure on features like this. On certain transitions, you'll want to land with your nose down and try push through. But here, it's a little bit like flat here. So he's going to land slightly positioned over a back foot to increase his range of motion. And it's also a little bit better to land slightly back foot heavy with your upper body pulled forward, because there's a big spectrum of how back foot heavy you can land as long as your upper body is pulled forward in correlation. But if you're landing completely flat base, a little bit nose heavy, then you don't really have as much room for air. So this is a great way to be a little bit safer, is letting that tail come down first. And then as he comes down, again, he's letting himself absorb a little bit, but only to the point where now he's perfectly set up for a frontside 360. So he used the absorption of the impact of this hit in order to go and get his body into a position for a frontside 360. And that is upper body slightly pulled forward, hips slightly shifted back, very, very subtle. But what he's doing really good here is making sure that the upper body's maintaining this forward hinge. And as he goes and pops, he's maintaining that same slight hinge even through this full extension. And this is because when you're doing a frontside 360, this one's off the toes, but we want our rotation in the air to actually be set over the toes. So it's really crucial to make sure that your upper body's staying over there. It's hard to tell that he's doing it because he extends those legs so much and gets so much power. And because he gets so much power, he's able to just float it and let his body catch up. Not rushing it, not snapping, just relying on good head position and good core fundamentals to get the spin around, resulting in maybe my favorite clip of all time. This is a hit pretty much every single person does because it's coming off of Jersey Cream. So it's a very normal part of the Whistler commute, and he's doing just a really solid backside 360. And one thing that you'll note here is as he's doing it, he's actually letting his hand touch the ground. This is a really high level strategy to do backside 360s off of like side hits, rollers. And it's sort of counterintuitive because we always think we want a strong upper body, strong posture, but he's actually letting himself compress at the hips and keep this extra bit of bend, because on a feature like this, he's not trying to get maximum pop, he's not trying to get maximum snap. Instead, he's keeping more hinge in the upper body, what's going to increase his usable range of motion in the hips. So as he snaps, he doesn't need to pop for rotation. Instead, he's keeping his head forward, shoulders squared, and then he's going to use that extra rotation to pull with the upper body around. And this is what he does so fantastic. Notice how his head is pointing down here where he's going. Because of the slight angle he's keeping with his upper body, that slight weight over the toe edge, it makes it so he can actually spot the backside 360 the whole way. An inherently blind trick he's able to see during the full duration, and that's giving him so much control. He links it right here again on an even bigger feature, but almost exactly the same form. A little bit taller, less leaned over because he needs to be lighter on his edge. He's not like carving in, but with this really exaggerated bend forward over the toe edge. And then as he pops, he's making sure to keep his upper body in this down position, keeping his head forward, and he's only really extending with his legs, keeping the upper body used for rotation and the legs used for pop and extension. And then as it pops, he just lets that upper body use his range of motion to continue the momentum, spot staying in exactly the same position, hitting the grab, and then pulling with that back arm to get it around. That's a really good trick. Is a backside 360 doesn't require that much power if you're grabbing mute, because you can use your chest, your upper body to get it around. So you only really need to rotate 180 degrees right here with your chest in this open up position, and then you can utilize counter rotation. So basically how he's doing this backside 360 is he's doing a 180 worth of power snap, and he's keeping his upper body in such a rotated position that he can then use counter rotation to finish it off. This has a few massive benefits. First, counter rotation actually slows down your maximum rotation velocity as you do it, because your arms are pulling one way, legs are going the other way, so it makes it so you're spinning less coming into the landing, and that just makes it easier to land. But the biggest thing is now he's not going and adjusting his rotation speed from what he did off a takeoff. Instead, he's doing it manually through the air, and that's giving him extreme precision. And as he's landing, he's letting his upper body stay forward, chest down, landing with that little bit of tail heavy position. And look at this upper body posture. Tail heavy, but upper body pulled forward in correlation. So when he goes and absorbs it, he's able to keep expanding into that back foot. And where normally people would be G'ing out and squatting super low into this position, he actually goes and locks up, keeps his joints tight, and tries to sort of like absorb it through the joints. What's really, really cool and fascinating, and something I'm really interested in trying. For this side hit here, this feature, pretty ridiculous. Like if we look at it, super rough transition, super rounded, not very kicky, not much of a lip. So he's going to need to generate a lot of that pop himself, because he can't go and ride off it cleanly and smoothly. And we can sort of see that his board sort of like hovering and not really riding through the full transition. And that's just because of how rounded it is. This would be like a perfect feature to go and use a more extreme ollie on, just because it doesn't have a natural kick that would give you that snap. So you're going to want to generate with it with your board. But as he's doing this, even though he's getting so much extension, notice how his upper body is keeping the slight curve and rounding towards that toe edge. So as he goes and snaps at 180, boom, now his rotation is set dead over that toe edge. From here, he's keeping that head centered, leading with that back arm, and that's just going to let it come around. And as he hits that landing, same exact position. Landing back foot, hip shifted back, upper body pulled forward in correlation. Because this landing is variable, you have to gap it. Like, look at this. You can't be landing on that. You can't be landing on that. So the precision here he's doing is all coming from that little bit of counter rotation. Basically the same principles as the backside 360, but with a little bit of a tweak. And these side hits, oh, this Stalefish, man, that's one of the best in the business. You can see here that he built himself a little bit of a landing. What's very fair, because the actual landing for the side hit is more around here. So he's boosting like 20 feet past that into there, and that's why he's getting so much ridiculous air. But as he goes and hits a grab like this, he's still being extremely patient. So notice how his upper body is still extending, legs still being patient as the tail snaps off the lip. He's not getting as much extension of his feature because he has a landing that he needs to snipe with and plenty of lip to work with. And that's one of the big things you'll notice with these side hit riders is instead of going and trying to get max pop out of each of them, you really need to change it towards the feature. This one, to do that, he's doing a couple of things. He's having his upper body more rotated forward and shifted forward. And that's because he needs to have his weight on his front foot in order to absorb the G-force of how fast this transition is, how steep it is with the speed he's going. And then the G's of that jump will actually naturally shift him towards his back foot. And that's something that's sort of needs to be developed through learning is every side hit, depending on how kicky it is, it will want to go and GU towards that back foot. So he couldn't ride into his feature being set over his back foot because then it would push him back a little bit more and he'd be leaving too tail heavy. So what does he do to counter this? He has his upper body pulled forward more, so the G's of a jump push him back into his natural back foot position, and he just lets this process happen, get a nice clean extension, all while maintaining his upper body in this nice hinge so he can instantly bring those legs up to the perfect pocket, hit the shifty, hit the grab, and as he lands, this one, he's landing a little bit front foot heavy. See how his hips are shifted towards the front foot? And that's because this is a small transition, so he's actually going and pushing through it. Instead of absorbing, he's pushing. So weight on the front foot, pushing, 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 and then the speed of a transition and the wash through is making him get naturally shifted back into his back foot riding standard position. And something you'll notice here is when he's just casually cruising the slope, he's just riding how it feels good. That's the thing with really high level riders is they use all these advanced positions we're always talking about in these videos, but normally when you're snowboarding, you're commuting from one spot to the other and you're just trying to do it in whatever way feels most comfy and relaxing. There's a very big difference between high performance technique and just trying to get around. This is such a sick angle. So what can we see here? He's letting his upper body rotate far more than his hips, making it so his upper body is slightly forward. And I think this is so cool because it makes it so he can have the contrast of having his upper body open and his hips shifted back towards that back leg without needing to go and do a big motion, using rotation of the upper body instead of shifting back and forth. And that's just a really cool way that he expands his range of motion. So then when he pops, first, his upper body is set in this forward position, but still relatively set over that tail, letting him get maximum power, but without having his whole body leaned back this way. This one though, he is pretty leaned back, especially on this angle, and I think that's probably why he needs to use his arms a little bit to like adjust him and like pull him in, using the natural arc of a jump, because that's the thing. If you match the angle of the takeoff absolutely perfectly, how jumping works is it will naturally want to throw you back on the arc of it. So he's not too worried about getting his chest forward because there's so much air time. This is such a long dart and the transition of the landing isn't very steep. So he doesn't need a very exaggerated upper body pulled forward position, just very subtle. And then as he's pushing through, such a great depiction of having the upper body pulled forward, hip shifted back, set over that back leg, but still centered. Making it so as he comes into that landing, extends, oh, look at that. Straight position, slightly angled forward with the upper body, and then as he absorbs it, just pushes through. And then if he does have that little bit of extra G's from coming through, straight to that back foot, straight pulling that upper body forward, just completely beautiful, awesome stuff. Man, he's a fun snowboarder to watch. I'm going to do another video talking about these side hits, but I want to just talk about this Wildcat because I love this thing. Almost no takeoff, no transition, and just beautiful. Like this is the pinnacle of how you can do a Wildcat. So he's going and making sure to keep his upper body extremely bent over. A really important part of when he's doing this is with the way he's shifting his hips, his upper body and everything, he's still centered over the balls of his feet. So even though he's coming over this much, he's not going and feeling like top heavy and starting to like fall down. Instead, he's still balanced over the same point. And then notice how much he's letting his arms wind up and staying patient with it. He's so good at being patient before using his explosive movements, and that lets him elongate it and use it through the full transition. And then because he's doing the Wildcat, he wants to make sure that his weight's staying over the balls of his feet, so he's extending his legs but keeping that little bit of bend in the upper body so the head can stay spotting forward, come around, chest in, and just perfect straight into it. So if there's one thing to take away from Arthur Longo, it's how he uses minimalism in order to get maximum power. Because he's making such small changes and shifts from his takeoff position to the in the air position to the landing position, there isn't any little extra funk, any bumps in the road that are going and diminishing his power. He is the best showcase in the world of less is more. Go and get your strong base locked in and then execute it smoothly. because when you do, you'll get so much control and so much power. And if you do it long enough and well enough, you'll be the best side hit rider in the world. If you want another video like this one, let me know in the comments below, and we'll be back at it with another one soon.